Today we're talking about the Enneagram of personality. You might have heard about the 9 Enneagram types, type 1, type 2, all the way through to Enneagram type 9. So if you're looking for a video to give you the basics on the Enneagram, you've got the right video. This video is an introduction to the Enneagram of personality. The Enneagram is a tool to help you understand yourself better, to understand what's going on underneath the surface so that you can then find the best path forward for self-development, personal growth, and becoming a better person. By the end of this video, you will have a good grasp on what the Enneagram is and be ready to learn more to investigate the more advanced concepts of the Enneagram. The Enneagram has 9 different types. In fact, the word Ennea is Greek for number 9. This is the symbol of the Enneagram. Each point on this symbol represents one of the 9 Enneagram types. Each type centers around a struggle that they have. And these are universal human struggles. So you will find that you will relate to a little bit of all the types, but have more in common with one particular Enneagram type. Enneagram teachers theorize that our personality type comes about during childhood because of a kind of trauma, and we spend the rest of our lives implementing certain behaviors that are supposed to protect us from that thing we are afraid of. We try to avoid the trauma of our childhood as we grow older. We also have a central desire that we always are trying to move towards. The best way to figure out what your type is to simply learn about the types. You can also do an Enneagram typing test. I have the links below this video for you to try out the Enneagram test. You can also download this handy Enneagram map on the links below. This is the Sacred Enneagram Bronze Level map. This map is perfect for a quick visual and informed reference into all of the elements of the Enneagram of personality. Right now I'm going to show you a brief rundown of all the 9 Enneagram types on this map, and it will give you some ideas of what your type might be. So for starters, I'll go to Enneagram type 1, which is right here. This is Enneagram type 1's Tree of Life diagram, and it has what is above ground and what is below ground. What is below ground is the unconscious drives or motivations we have, and above ground is what we are working towards, a more liberated, enlightened state of mind. But for now, we're learning the basics, and Enneagram style 1 or Enneagram type 1 is called the reformer. And the attitude of Enneagram type 1 is, there's a correct way. I'll demonstrate to you how. Ones are roused by the need to carry on with their life the correct way, as well as enhancing themselves and their general surroundings. So that's just a quick overview of what Enneagram type 1 represents. So I'm just zooming back out again. And now I'm going down to some of the unconscious motivations of Enneagram type 1. Okay, so Enneagram type 1's red flag. So when Enneagram type 1 is trapped in self-triangulation, which means a certain negative fixation that Enneagram type 1 personalities seem to find themselves in at times. And Enneagram type 1's specific red flags are, I righteously do things the proper way. They can be rationally sharp, restrained feelings, agitation, and inflexibility. So now I'm zooming back out and we'll go to Enneagram type 2. So this is Enneagram types 2 Tree of Life diagram. Just like with Enneagram type 1, we have what's below ground, our unconscious motivations and behaviors, and what is above ground and that which we are working towards. So Enneagram style 2 or Enneagram type 2 is the people person. And their attitude is, I love supporting others. What do you require? Twos are spurred by the desire to be adored and esteemed and to express their positive emotions towards others. So just zooming back out and going down to Enneagram Types 2, red flags. Here is Enneagram Type 2's red flags. So when Type 2s are in a negative mindset or a negative fixation, they can have these motivations. They don't recognize my own needs, feel like I'm not doing enough for others. They use flattery to receive praise and recognition, manipulate and help others to receive appreciation and approval, and they get annoyed or they feel unappreciated and ungratified. So zooming out once again, and we'll go to Enneagram Type 3 now. So I'm just quickly going through, giving you a brief snapshot of each of the Enneagram types from 1 through to 9. Right now we're up to Enneagram Type 3. And Enneagram Type 3, or Enneagram Style 3, is the pragmatic doer. And their attitude is, I'll do anything to be what I want. 3s are spurred by the desire to be profitable, make progress, and keep away from disappointment. So zooming out, and then we'll go down to Enneagram Type 3's red flags. Here is Enneagram Type 3 red flags, and these represent negative mindsets and motivations. Sometimes Enneagram Type 3s strive to remain competitive, modify myself to the environment, evaluate my level of acclaim, emotionally detach and perform, and can be narcissistically focused, which is all just about them. Going on now to Enneagram Type 4. Here's Enneagram Types 4 Tree of Life. And Enneagram Type 4, Enneagram Style 4, is the individualist. And their attitude is, no one understands, I must be me. 4s are spurred by their need to encounter their sentiments and to be comprehended, to look for the significance of life and to abstain from being conventional. Enneagram Types 4, red flags. These are the negative mindsets or attitudes of Enneagram Type 4 when they are caught in an unconscious fixation. Being unique and misunderstood, self-absorbed in my emotions, temperamental, mood swings, suffering in deep self-pity, save me. And now we go to Enneagram Type 5. Enneagram Type 5, or Enneagram Style 5, is the puzzle solver. And the attitude of Enneagram Type 5 is, my home is my castle, I need my space. 5s are persuaded by the want to know and comprehend everything, to be adequate and abstain from looking stupid. And here are the red flags of Enneagram Type 5. Mentally avaricious, emotionally reserved and lessen people's requirements of me, distant and detached from the world, absorbed in a dark world, crudely provocative. Now, Enneagram Type 6. Enneagram Type 6 is called the steward. And their attitude is, you can rely on me, I'm damned either way. 6s are motivated by the desire for security, or phobic 6s are outwardly fearful and seek approval. Counterphobic 6s confront their fear, but both of these aspects can appear in the same person. Enneagram Type 6 red flags. Here is the negative mindsets or motivations of Enneagram Type 6 when they're caught in a negative fixation. Find what can be trusted and secure. Anxious, self-doubting, ambiguity with leaders, paralyzed by fear and pessimistic. And here we have Enneagram Type 7s. Enneagram Style 7, or Enneagram Type 7, is called the improviser. And their attitude is, I love life and I need to encounter it all. 7s are spurred by the need to be happy and create pleasurable events, to add to the world and to avoid suffering and emotional pain. Here is Enneagram Type 7's red flags. The grass looks greener over there. Suppress emotional pain by excessively keeping busy via talking, eating, buying, travel, always something new. Numb and impatient. Heedless distraction. Fall into hysteric panic, stricken despair and feeling trapped. Over to Enneagram Type 8 now. Enneagram Type 8 or Enneagram Style 8 is called the powerhouse. Their attitude is, I am robust, my way or the highway. 8s are driven by the need to be self-reliant and robust and to stay away from feeling vulnerable or dependent. Enneagram Type 8's red flags are being intense and in control over my territory, assert anger abruptly and intensely, aggressive, combative and domineering, widen my dominion and force myself over others. And here we have Enneagram Type 9. Enneagram Type 9 or Enneagram Style 9 is called the peacekeeper. Attitude, we all just need to get along. 9s are propelled by the need to keep the peace, to converge with others, and to stay away from strife. Enneagram Type 9's red flags. These represent the negative motivations or toxic fixations 9s might fall into. Self-defeating acquiescence, avoid conflict, unclear, confused about priorities, repressed anger and passive-aggressive. So we've just been quickly through each of the 9 Enneagram types. Right now I'm going to show you what else is within this bronze level Enneagram map. So to learn the advanced concepts of the Enneagram, this Sacred Enneagram bronze level map is the perfect tool to help you investigate the Enneagram. Zooming back into Enneagram Type 8's type. So as we went through before, you have the attitudes or the description of the Enneagram Style 8. And we have what's below ground and above ground. What's below ground here is we're talking about the triangle of ego identity. We have the passions to avoid fear, the inner critic pursues, and the habits of mind to cope. When we are caught in the triangle of ego identity, we get stuck into different habits and mind fixations and seek to avoid a particular fear that makes us feel vulnerable or stressed. So Enneagram Type 8's passion to avoid fear or method to avoid fear is intensity, and their inner critic likes to take charge, and that's how they pursue things in life, is to try to take charge and be in control. And the habit of Enneagram Type 8 is to objectify. It's easier to control something if you objectify it, if you don't personalize it, if you just keep it as an object that's over there and not have any emotional investment in it, then it's easier to take charge. And so Enneagram Type 8 gets caught up in a spiral called the triangulation spiral that repeats behaviors of fear and listening to the inner critic and getting stuck in the habit of mind. And that's when Enneagram Type 8s can spiral down into more toxic behaviors. So here we have the passion to avoid fear for Enneagram Type 8, and you can zoom in here to find the information about that. So a little brief overview is Enneagram Type 8s want to live life using intensity, often extreme intensity. I use much more than I require for most circumstances. The harder I drive forward and the greater power I employ, the more actualized and real I feel. So that's the type of behavior Enneagram Type 8 can fall into when they're trying to avoid the feelings of vulnerability. moving over to Enneagram Types 8's inner critic to pursues. Enneagram Types 8 inner critic pursues is to take charge. And here we have all the information about that. 8s are best when they feel significant, powerful, and in control of a situation. The inner critic doesn't allow them to ascertain between circumstances in which I could relax and loosen up, and the ones through which taking control would be suitable. As long as I'm caught within the inner critic's web, I try to enforce my control and power over other individuals. And so 8's inner critic pursues being in control and imposing their power. And the last attribute on the triangle of ego identity is the 8's habit of mind to cope, which is objectification. And here we have all the information about how Enneagram Type 8s can objectify others. I objectify other people to make sure they don't appear real or significant to me. So I'm not going to go through all that information, but it's right here on these Enneagram maps that you can download on the links below this video. Another thing I want to show you in these maps is that it also goes into the core beliefs. Now the core beliefs goes into information about how the core beliefs of Enneagram 8 developed in their childhood, what their environment were like and what their circumstances were like, what were their parents like, or what negative circumstances pushed the Enneagram Type 8 to adopt the attributes on the triangle of ego identification. And we also have the steps out of self-triangulation. So if you find yourself getting caught up in the triangle of ego identity, you can look here to find what are the steps out of that self-triangulation. And the thriving aspects of Enneagram Type 8 when they're in a positive mindset goes into a lot of information down there. Now I'm just zooming back out again. Okay, and up the top here is that we have the Tree of Life and 8's Divine Essence. And 8's Divine Essence is called Shakti Cosmic Power. And when we click in here, it describes all the attributes of what Shakti Cosmic Power is, which is the divine essence of Enneagram Type 8. Now I'm zooming back out to the home screen, bringing everything together. Now the good thing about this Enneagram map is that it's so easy just to click and zoom in onto the attributes that you most want to look at. So if you're investigating Enneagram Type 9, you would just go up to the point here and click onto it, and it would zoom into all that information. And then you can zoom in more and click on different attributes. You can zoom into the divine essence of Enneagram Type 9 right there. You can zoom back out. You can zoom down to check out Enneagram Type 9's triangle of ego identity and all the attributes in there. You can zoom in further and go down into the red flag section, which is just here. That's what we've been through before. But it also goes into the damaging negative effects. So if Enneagram Type 9 finds himself stuck in the negative attributes of the triangle of ego identity and getting caught into that self-triangulation spiral, they can spiral down into the damaging negative effects. And down here is all the information about Enneagram Type 9's damaging negative effects. And going further down also into this blood drop here, this blood drop represents negative side effects from being stuck in the self-triangulation spiral. And right down the bottom here, it goes into the mental disorder diagnosis and rationale. And this is from the DSM-5, which is the psychological measurement book for psychiatrists and psychologists. And I just wanted to quickly touch upon this, is that when somebody is stuck in the negative attributes of the self-triangulation spiral for many years, it's most likely that they will develop some type of behavioral disorder or personality disorder and negative mindset that can be represented in the mental diagnosis and rationale. And some of the attributes specific to that Enneagram type are located here at the bottom of this blood drop. So over here we have the dependent personality disorder, or hoarding disorder, or major depressive disorder, and other attributes that Enneagram Type 9, when stuck in the self-triangulation spiral for many years, can develop into these toxic side effects. Okay, now I'm zooming back out to the home screen, bringing all the pieces together. Some of the other things located on this Sacred Enneagram Bronze level map is the development of our Ennea style, okay, which goes into the 3 shocks of embodiment, which are 1, the loss of wholeness, loss of emotional connection, and loss of trust. So this is going through why people develop an Enneagram type, or why do they develop a certain fixation that falls into the 9 categories of Enneagram type. So in a nutshell, a baby grows and experiences through the 3 shocks of embodiment, and there occurs energetic contractions in the physical, emotional, and mental spheres of development. We narrow our awareness into a separate sense of I. This is called ego. We lose our original sense of essence of love, freedom, and unity. Instead, our ego tries to compensate for this loss, endlessly propping its separate sense of self up against others and the environment. So it just goes into how we develop our Enneagram type there. Okay, we also have, located on this map, all the information about the Enneagram history. Starting from the first signs of Enneagram, which was with Pythagoras, the Greek mathematician, from around 600 BC. And it goes through the years, it goes to Plato, it goes to the 1600s, it goes to where the Enneagram has shown up throughout history. And who discovered the Enneagram and brought it to the West, which was George Gurdjieff. And those who elaborated on it once it was brought to the West, which was Ichizo did most of the work elaborating on the original information that George Gurdjieff brought to the West. And it also goes into how the Enneagram has been used in most major religions in the world. I won't go through all that information right now, but it's all there on these Enneagram maps that you can download at the links below. So that's a quick summary of what you will find in the Sacred Enneagram Bronze level map. So just to summarize, the Enneagram is a sacred tool that gives us access to the wisdom we need to escape from our self-imposed prisons so we can embrace a fuller life. This Enneagram symbol is not a rigid symbol. It's a life-giving, ancient, sacred, geometric, multi-dimensional, highly intricate symbol that moves and flows in patterns that give life and reveal knowledge. So this bronze level map here that we've just been through is the first map in a series of maps. We also have the silver level Enneagram map and the gold level Enneagram map that can all be found at the links below this video. So I hope you have fun in your Enneagram explorations. Bye for now.